Let me introduce myself. My name is Sergey Yakovlev. I'm head of the Center for Identification and Digital Products of MTS. And okay, 1, 2, 3. I'm head of identification of digital products of MTS. And in this unit, there is everything related to the identity topic of MTS, the system login, which is used for seamless transition, the login that you are using for entering MTS, including my MTS, and all possible services related to seamless transfer to MTS Bank. It's a very interesting task. It's It's a unified link between the big telecom and bank and the entertainment. So it's a unified access and everything that related to golden records and data frequency in the largest telecom and all the external products related to identification, because we are working with 80 million subscribers and we know what best technologies are available in the market and we are offering them in the market. And because it's a large telecom, it all happens, large telecom company, it all happens on the industrial scale, and a part of our fintech is connected with the predictive and prescriptive analytics, scoring, anti-fraud, payment schemes, etc. So I will probably have to speak a little bit louder. Here at the conference, there are very many topics that in this or that way are connected with the topic of, connected with the identity, and of course Nabiulina and Skorobogatova have described of EBS, and that's an important topic. We are preparing for that because we have launched all the biometric functions between the MTS perimeter. For example, we service our clients based on the face recognition, and we can service you without a document, because banks, even they recognize your face, they will not provide services to you without a document, but we can actually perform those operations, quite frequent ones, and there is a lot of fraud because you replace SIM cards, you can purchase the VC identification for 10 rubles and then in the darknet, and then you can do anything you want. So the telephone-based identification, simultaneous anti-fraud and credit scoring, it can be all combined in the digital onboarding system. And I understand that today those technologies, the further we go into the virtual reality, the further we go into the virtual reality, and COVID has shown that once we have converted to remote contacts, everything once started working remotely, and the identification problems are now being raised, becoming more and more important. So what kind of an account it is, whether it's fake or not, it's very important. So what is happening with Twitter and what Elon Musk is doing, there are many things related to fake accounts, so we need to understand who is on the other end. And the pandemic has shown that the service of the digital channel is very convenient, and we are counting the DMPS clients, the ACJ quality, how it's assessed by the clients, the client track client path on the internet, and it's a question of cutting costs for in retail. The banks are coming to us and they are saying if we make a good channel in the legal sense, make a good selection, and the Federal Security Service agrees with that, then we can very radically decrease the costs for remote offices. And many people have been discussing that topic for quite a while, how to make a quality onboarding with digital within digital channels. Where is the trade-off? We know that in the banks, because the brokerage companies can for put clients, connect clients on the digital channel, do the onboarding, and but opening of an account with the bank requires that you show up in person. So the question is whether you can identify the client in the digital channel in order for that to meet the requirements of internal security service and the federal security service. So this EBS allows one to open the accounts, and before EBS shows up for many leaders, the KPI for September is over 70 million biometric samples of EBS, and that will yield a real opportunity to identify people on the digital channel, but that's so far just dreams. So we have discussed at FinTech, we have banks, brokers, credit brokers who are in this or that way connected with the financial technologies, and we are the same subjects. I mean telecom, and we understood that it's such a task that once you enter my MTS, we identify you based on the phone number. We understand who is on the other side by using big data. So we can make various kinds of identification, and we can offer to you everything that can be offered on the digital channel from the point of view of the fintech, from the point of view of banking products, and we can now do it with respect. In the first place, for banks, by means of virtual card, by means of microcrediting, all the payment histories, everything that's related to mobile, online commerce, and all those four services are offered in the digital format. We verify and collect the data, check it, and we have developed a few methodologies of working with that. And that's important because we know that large telecom companies now tend to have their banks, and there are loyalty programs. And we know that since you've registered before, it's easy to register, and you go through this entire anti-laundering procedures. You are working through EC, you can get a loyalty card on the site. So when you register via EC, it's 10 to 20% conversion rate, so 80% doesn't fit into this scheme, so it's very difficult. So we have proposed the ways which I wanted to determine. Now we, MTS, we want to become a benchmark in the field of identification from the point of view of the fact that we have 80 million clients plus fintech plus literally all the population. We have big data, and telecom collects big data on the subscribers, including the information which the subscribers do not know themselves. And it's all protected by the banking secret protection and other personal data protection laws. And by having access to all that information, to all that big data and all the identification technologies, we are moving towards that direction. And why MTS decided to deal with that? First off, we are second after Sberbank in terms of the number of clients, and they are all subject to federal laws 126 and 115. We check them all. Also, there is this scheme whereby financial intelligence, or this explanation that financial intelligence is saying that we are not as reliable as banks, but including CRM and CBM technologies. But now the ordinance by 213 and 216 has obliged all the telecoms to make links of all the subscriber numbers to the Ministry of Interior database and make a large-scale purification, cleaning of the data. But now all the Ministry of Interior services are down, even though we have a dedicated channel to them. So in the half a year or maybe a year after the sanctions are gone, we will get one of the cleanest databases in the telecom sector, because we have many clients and they are all identified. Also, we are second in fintech, and we learned to abide by the financial technology laws, and we work in parallel with the banks. We actually have a very good hang of that. Besides, the government has now actually obliged us, told us that it is enforcing the cleaning of our database, and it will be comparable with any bank's database in terms of its verifiability. Concerning the big data, where are there physical individuals, data banks, to make sure there is a specific person on the other side, but for anti-fraud purposes, that you have an identified person on both ends, so that the authentication factor corresponds to the person on the other end. And in Russia, we are all used to working with the state. The state is the Ministry of Interior database. We also spoke recently about the ERN, the Unified Register of Population, which it's being postponed. It has been postponed repeatedly to also harmonize it with the previous documents. But ERN is a clean and good quality database, the Unified Register of the Population, and the Federal Tax Service is involved with that, and they are going to launch something like that next year, which means that we will obtain a very good quality data, and the citizen profile and other sources. So it's a base, and in your financial technologies, this idea, there is nothing to check, but I can reassure you that you can just download data from EC, and that would be enough. Olga Skorobogatova has issued a memo last year that you need to verify the data that additionally that you check with the verified additionally. Also, the Bureau of Credit Histories is also accumulating a lot of information about individuals, natural persons, based on their passports, but they actually offer services related to application fraud, verification of data, and other sources, other services, for example, verifying whether you don't have a fake, to make sure you don't have a fake photo in your passport. I remember a case when Roskomnadzor, Russian communications oversight, has prohibited banks from using that base, and the number of fraud cases has actually sprang up very drastically. Another huge source of information, other telecoms, based on the law, because we are obliged to put on board all the subscribers, and even the law on telecommunications is harsher. We collect that data from the clients, and of course then we enrich it, and there is a whole business based around that, and the big four mobile operators are collecting that data, so it's a compatible database with the government one. And there are also banking databases, for example, maintained by Sberbank and Tinkoff Bank, and Sber ID is a service which can actually be used by Sber website, and Tinkoff also offers its ID services so that it can act as identification agents, and so you can get the information from them and perform the identification yourself. And if we are talking about why it's all used, why identify the individuals, of course, the reason is firstly that you have to do it by law, and otherwise you will get your license cancelled. And Roskomnadzor, Russian Communications Oversight, will find a lot of potholes in your activity. There are many subjects to Federal Law 115, also customs declarations. If you are buying at AliExpress at an amount exceeding a certain amount, you are obliged to provide your passport in the digital format, which is a very difficult problem for the customs representative. It's really very harsh. And so it's money going to the budget, and Federal Tax Service is really giving very hard time to everyone. Also, the sales of tobacco and alcohol is another case, so personal ID is necessary for that. And another reason is to counter fraud. And actually, about 2 to 3 years ago, the anti-fraud market actually is quite difficult, because I understand the credit history is something where everything is very clear. It is very clear how much people earn. And so it needs, but we want to structure it. We want to check what kind of types of anti-fraud exists, and to see what social engineering projects are aiming at compared with the cyber business. And every time we come to a new client, every time we offer our features in order to counter fraud, we understand that on the other end, like they say, for example, now we are concerned with this, with the fake accounts, and that's how via social engineering people are getting robbed, and we want to shut down those fake accounts. And in the betting, for example, in the gambling, we know that there is fraud connected with withdrawing the funds, and it's really very important. And every time you need to confirm your personality and to verify yourself whether it's the correct person. So you need to prove it, and the laws do not say anything. And the demand is increasing. The market for fraud on the digital channels is becoming more and more contemporary and more refined. And for us as telecom, because it's all done via the handset, via the mobile, therefore we are collecting all those tweaks, all those features. And for example, we want to show that we want to be able to tell whether there is a proxy caller, proxy phone number, that there are no counterfeit subscribers calling you. So there is nothing we can do. And in the e-com cases, it's done very fast concerning the gambling, the betting, etc., and with the banks as well. And the banks have actually learned to live with that. And the thirdly, a very important piece is any sort of identification which is not overly regulated. Wherever you are in e-com, are having your basket of goods, shopping cart, and you connect that to your phone number, and with those goods you can connect it with the loyalty program, and it's all connected with identification. And there is a lot of fraud in that when it comes to that operation as well. Also speaking about when we are recommending certain products which can expand your line of products, when you are landing them, and like with the EC case, and then I'm saying cut that conversion, but then the price of your lead is skyrocketing. And so, in my opinion, we all have faced something like that. So if you have invested in mailings, in advertisement, but then it has failed at the whole business has failed on the input stage due to Article 7 of Federal Law number 115, because you fail to identify people, you have to collect the data about the individual and verify them, because otherwise the regulator would come to you and check your data, and if that data is not valid, then there will be fines, penalties applied to you. But sometimes the regulator comes with a Ministry of Interior Excel file, and it's not difficult to verify everyone against that, but to collecting data is quite difficult. Nevertheless, we are talking about collecting the data. How you can collect them? The person has come to you, has shown the data with the passport, and so you have compared it with the person's identity, person's face, but there are many mistakes when people are checking without biometric data, and a good mask only costs $200. So it's not mission impossible, it's all sold in the market. And all those mechanisms, when you have to come to the front office, front desk, and present a fake passport, it actually does work. But the most reliable mechanism is actually personal appearance. You cannot open an account without it. So when it comes to digital channels, it all comes to the EC. You can get the login and password from the person, so you don't even have to prove the validity. Sometimes not everything is going smoothly with that procedure. You can also hire an agent. One of the articles in Federal Law 115 outlines that. And also you can do it via databases, via information systems. So we cannot act as agents, but we can act as actually providers of information to you for identification purposes, according to Article 3 of Federal Law number 115. Once we have checked that, how can we prove the validity? The validity can be proven. The law says that you can prove it any way you want. But at least you have to run it through the Excel file of the Ministry of Interior, where the passports are stolen. Anyone who saw that file understands what it is. Another option is to make the user go through the EC through some digital channels, but usually it's MEF, it's the Ministry of Interior database. It can be, it can sometimes hang up, or sometimes it doesn't hang up. Sometimes it can hang up even for a day, for 24 hours. But actually, in the law, it says that you need to collect the data, you need to provide, to prove their validity. But the logic tells us most of the fintech actually collects the data and then lets you leave the proof of the validity till later. But if you have proven the validity, you stop the procedure, then you have to update the data depending on once a year, once in 3 years, using the same information systems. And we, as United number of telecom companies, we can actually collect the data via ourselves. We have validity verification databases, and it's easy to update them. You can source that from us at the front office, but so far you can do it without opening an account, you can do it without opening an account. Yet today, in a number of cases, you can issue a virtual card to a person who is already a client. So you have already seized the client. A client needs a microcredit, for example, in order to pay off some debt. And you can issue it in the digital channel. You can actually place it on a virtual card which has been released to that person and allow the person to perform that payment. You can do it with identification in the digital channel. So it's an ideal option, and we have all mechanisms available for that. You can onboard it, and it all occupies a very short time. It's around 1 minute, and also we can insert in there various anti-fraud mechanisms. So when we are talking about fraud, not for overly regulated purposes, when the law does not require this entire mess, messing around with, not messing around, but actually obeying the law and having to do with all this hustle. And so the counterfeiting of faking a personal ID, like a fake photo, a mask, a deep fake, or some other mechanisms which enable one to lose the track of the, it prevents one from identifying who is on the other side. You don't understand. So if you start a chat with a person, and in the digital channel you can use the passport scans for retail transactions. However, again, it's an expensive thing, because a good fake is you have to actually lift off the laminated film, and all the watermarks and everything else is retained. So many of the people working at the front desk, for many of them it's hard to understand that it's a fraud. So without any mechanisms, it actually doesn't, it doesn't survive. You have to either look at it under UV rays, or use it in 3,000 offices of yours. You can use the following mechanism. A person comes, scans a passport, we take a picture of the person, and we can use it for biometry if he pledges or she pledges his or her consent for that. And so then you can use it for passport-free service at our offices. So it's a very simple operation which occupies a short time, and due to that we have saved up to 3 minutes in retail transactions. We have accelerated the servicing of the clients. It's automatic recognition, and so in 3 minutes, and we have actually, by 3 minutes per person, we have saved several 100 million rubles, because we have a lot of retail. Among the telecoms, ours is probably one of the largest. And due to that, the anti-fraud has worked, because we compare. When we compare the photo in the passport and the photo of the client, we understand who that is. Sometimes a person cannot recognize a good makeup or tell that it's a makeup, but the machine can tell that, and we have already checked it. And so we are saving on time, when we have built-in anti-fraud, the client essentially the TMPS and other client satisfaction indicators are becoming much better. And when it comes to hacking the accounts with e-com or acting on behalf of the user, when it comes to bonus hunting, everybody wants to understand that it's actually a live individual, a live person on the other side. And those technologies actually exist. They are one of the best worldwide. And so now it's a simple picture that is being made, a short video, which actually, from the point of view of the first and second type of the errors, actually just proves that it's live individuals. No fakes, no masks actually work. It's actually a good classy technology, and now the biometry actually looks pretty good. So if there was no fear compared to in this case, and so the state would recognize you now on every step, and the abusers would actually recognize you. So what would happen to you later? So it's quite safe to store your personal data, to rely on the institutions like ours, and the descriptors, the width of your nose, the distance between the eye pupils. It actually may not even be personal data. What is going to happen to them? So it's just a set of figures. Nevertheless, the people are very afraid of that. There are many fairy tales, many myths related to that, but if you read the book of Revelation, there is of course something apocalyptical about it. But of course, from the point of view of an IT specialist, the mankind has never come up with anything better, anything more feasible than this system. Because what kind of ideas there exist? For example, in the West, in Europe, the main ID is email address. You identify yourself everywhere based on the email. We have encountered with one of the retail players, and he said that all identification is based on Google Mail, and which means that, but that's actually past century. The email authentication, it's quite difficult, so it's really hard. And he says, yes, you are far ahead in Russia. You have phone identifiers, etc. But here it's also like this. So there is a whole number of places which you enter. The password is lost. There are many books written that you cannot use a password. When we are dealing with anti-fraud, we actually look at all the leaks in the darknet, and we know how many compromised passwords exist, how many of them are around. And therefore, email IDs are not very good. And password as an identification factor is not very good. So the most popular one is the phone number, because the phone is almost a part of our body. There is nothing we can do without a phone, and the number of the phone, the number of the SIM is the main identifiers. Of course, the main authentication factor is as an SMS, a text message which you receive with the code. And our technologies show that it can all be done seamlessly. We make this confirmation, and the technologies enable you to tie your phone number, your handset, your phone, with the handset on the other end, which has the same phone number. So it's very good, and from the point of view of SBL, of anti-fraud, it's a very good effect, because you actually, it has been just mentioned, you can actually replace the SMS, the text messages, and there is a lot of fraud related to that. But this actually enables one to basically bypass it really well. But of course, you know from which phone number people enter, but it's kind of a threshold, a borderline topic. When you get on the site, you push the button, you try to identify yourself, then we already know everything about you, and the site where you identify yourself already knows everything about you. So it's a kind of a technology which did not exist yesterday, now it exists. So the mathematical and economical things actually help. So what other? The phone number are actually used everywhere, for example 3DS. But when we are talking about the vector, about the human face, and the voice doesn't play such a big role with the first and second type of the mistakes, but the face biometry, nothing better has actually been identified before. And this double-click on Apple Pay, which doesn't work now, you can do it. We are all now trying to come back to this type of client experience. We have invented form factor, etc. Everyone wants to try to return to this experience, and nothing is comparable to it from the point of view of safety. This is the best case from the anti-fraud point of view, and it's possible to play around with that data and try to counterfeit, but still it's very difficult. So what we observe with the banks, stage number one, is once you have attracted some traffic and have spent part of the used part of the data, have directed the client. If you need to open the account and you want to give the client a mortgage, issue a mortgage for the client, you have sent a courier to work with the client and to be on board on the payroll. And since he's an employee with your legal entity, he needs to identify him or herself, or you have the person come to your office, then you score the person. There are a lot of problems with SBKI, so it's quite expensive, many problems with the digital channel utilization, and so you have generated some leads, you have landed them on the side, maybe there is a good CPC indicator, and then you have gathered some data from different channels, and I've already told which version it is. You can fill out the questionnaire. 70 to 80% actually fail on the questionnaire filling out level, so this funnel is narrowing down. Pre-scoring and scoring has its own problems, but of course the banks have learned to do it. But previously, when you buy data from BKI, the code transaction, telecom, etc., and you build this chain, and the funnel is becoming narrower, so it's better to put it into one single model, package it, but not everybody does it. So in the end, we are left with the figures which do not always comply with the desire of the shareholders, and our role is to expand it here. By expanding it here, we actually enable to let all the people go through the identification and use our products. So when it comes to the problems, I've already mentioned that to you, and about 80% of traffic, 78% on the questionnaires, and even more fail during the verification checkup. And while you are doing all that, so interesting, what are people doing over there? Very loud sounds, so you feel like coming around and taking part in the fun with them. Okay, so SMEF gets hung up, and you are, or it's period. There is nothing you can do. So in order to verify 80 million people know SMEF will be able to do it, but we've tried to use different kinds of verifications. We have cascaded our checkups, and that allows us to do it faster with the client scoring. And also another issue, we have learned to request the Bureau of Credit Histories. It's actually a pretty cool story. I can show it to you later on the basis of the CJs. So we have resolved everything. We have actually accelerated the conversion based on leads by 85%, and whoever has encountered that and seen how it gets reduced, sometimes the conversion rate is falling, the pushes did not raise, and we've been working for a year with various financial technology companies and it has enabled us to raise the conversion rate very highly. We have this service called RIM, Remote Identification Model. It's ECM via our accounts department, but it's for large fintech. It's not very interesting, but it's very easily built in for the new startups. You can get a widget and the EC questionnaire and mobile ID technology, about which I will tell you in more detail, and Surface Passport. Nothing better has been so far invented in Russia, because those are 4 mechanisms except personally showing up. And this EC and this link, we have pulled everything together for the digital channel, and the mobile ID helps us to collect the data. Cascade verification, like I said, we verify it, and we can also verify the phone number. Based on that, if you are preparing, you're, for example, running a campaign, but many people have changed residences and phone numbers, and running this whole database through and confirming that this name corresponds to this phone. There are different technologies working to that end, including mobile ID, and we enrich the profile, and we have, in the first place, we can update we have dual. First, of course, we can update it via SMEF or federal tax service resources. So if we have updated, the and that enables when you update the taxpayer identification number, you update the TIN, you go through the register of physical entities, register of self-employed individuals, you understand who is a self-employed entrepreneur, who is the small and medium enterprise, and you actually get the reporting, understand what the function of a person is in the company, and then you can get a selection for SMEs, because you get everything through the phone number. So basically you get the ready information which enables you to work in the segment, and you know that the person has some background working with the legal entities, but it also for anti-fraud purposes it can work to prevent the conflict of interest cases. And when you have that data, when it's structured, when it's enriched, you actually have possibilities to use lead gain in your base, and this actually enables you to work with more correctly with your own data. Apart from that, like I said, we have credit scoring. Credit scoring has raised quite a bit lately, and this year, in terms of the callbacks and anti-fraud, we have assumed leading positions, and we have very good indicators on anti-fraud scoring. Previously it wasn't as good, but now the team has updated, and also the hardware and the brains have been renewed actually. So apart from that, because we are doing it for ourselves, we are also running a physical and a natural person through this database, then through wanted lists, through the data lists, etc. So for security services we actually hire a whole bunch of people. There is a lot of leakage of the personnel, and we actually have due to that, automated the operation of our databases. It used to take 1.5 to 2 weeks to register a person. So we recognize the passport, then we enrich the data, and then the security service can get an acceptance. We have actually checked everything except from the Ministry of Interior data. in the black market that actually enables us to buy something, but how trustworthy it is and how legal, it's still a question. So there are possibilities with the telecom, and of course, like I said, there is nothing better than a phone ID apart from the face, and it can get all the data from the register, from all the registers, and about being seamless, running it seamlessly. We have actually discovered it this year. You enter the phone number, you get a confirmation text message, and now when you enter the phone number, when it's identified with anti-fraud and everything, no one has ever come up with a better tech solutions than this one. And actually, this is the future. This is what will replace to us the familiar SMS. So it's a seamless mobile IDs. So it's a wow technology, an excellent technology. It's really classy. And comparing selfie with the photo in the passport, it's a classical thing, and it's a classical biometric technology, even though federal law FZ479 tells that you should make a sample, prepare a descriptor on its basis, but when you just retrieve a picture and compare two descriptors from the passport and from the picture that you have taken, then you delete it and not use it for identification and authentication. It's not biometry, and they are really cool technologies. And like I said, we're using it in 3,000 offices every day through 1 million transactions. What it looks like on the screen, you are getting an SMS swing how to work with the technologies and the RIM product. When the person clicks, there is a window which pops up where the client actually selects, so you can tell that you don't need a questionnaire, just take an EC or a selfie with a passport, and respectively the client goes through it, and there is a CJ and there is a mobile ID, and so it's a GSM technology. 4 operators are taking part in it. It's a really cool thing. And the conversion rate used to be not very good a year ago, but now we have actually straightened out all the mechanisms that we used to have, and it's a case that actually one of the few cases where the different operators cooperate. We actually do cooperate on this, and it's very good, and it's not a competition, but like the central bank proposed before, it proposed for everyone to work together. So you enter your birth date. Why is it important? Because there is such a problem as like when you buy a SIM card and give it to your daughter, parents, or whoever, you have purchased it for yourself and another person is using it, and it's a good problem. You have now learned to do it. You're using the big data. You determine who is doing it, and we wanted to start the voice-based biometry, and about 20% of people actually fail there or get screened out, and so to that end we request to enter the phone number and birth date, and then we check the data from the documents, and when we tell the clients to go to and do, for example, a selfie with a passport. In adverse case, there is a push message that comes. You say, okay, you sign it with a simple electronic signature, the right our right to transfer your data to the bank. The bank gets all the personal data, and it can takes the verification of the data, puts it on the screen, and then everything matches the laws, 150, Federal Law 115 and others. So all the personal data based on your personal ID are verified. So it may take 20 to 30 seconds. So you have collected the data, and you can run it through yourself, or you can get the data from Ministry of Interior, from the tax service, the database for stolen passports, etc. Another thing is a selfie with a passport, something that I mentioned before, like if your birthday coincides, but you're saying, please do this, take a picture of yourself, and everything has been recognized, and here you can compare the picture in the passport with your actual picture, and when the picture is done, you also can verify whether it's not deep fake, and the person is not wearing a mask, that it's a live individual, and he is not wearing makeup, so this mechanism, otherwise it won't work. And respectively, we have confirmed the entire fraud, and it works on a very large scale. We have reduced our costs, and then we have purchased Vision Labs, and the public services, it's actually something that we take into account. So there is nothing new about it, and so there is this questionnaire, people make mistakes, there is a certain database, you want to prove it, and you want to prove that everything coincides. So you verify data, you don't need to notify the clients because there is no disclosure of personal data. Therefore, you can just clean up your database. So where have we encountered the real problems? It's in the first place we had a case with payments. MTS Bank, it is building its policies very actively, so it TSO, the call servicing terminal, there are a lot of screenings sieving out based on the identifications level, and when SMS links come, people should also run the identification, and we propose the link, the photo with the passport, and so it works, and we have enlarged the funnel, so it's all about the business. Then also, when there is a consent to retrieve credit history from the Bureau of Credit Histories, if a person signs something with the help of mobile ID, there is a push message that arrives, so you have this legally binding operation, and all of that, you can actually confirm it legally, and so the person goes through identification with the help of a mobile ID, and thereafter he is proposed jointly with the identification process to sign an offer for remote services, and a text message is also a simple electronic signature, and then the consent to sign, to file a request with the Bureau of Credit Stories, so you get an electronic form. You get it in electronic form, because otherwise it's lost, and so you are checking it during the checkup, the paper has burned, they may say that it's lost, in other words, the copy of the contract, etc. So it's actually really, it's something that really solves the problem of the gray market. Virtual cards, it works approximately in the same manner. You can use mobile IDs, and virtual cards are important because you get clients online, you have attached them if they need plastic. They can you can actually issue a plastic card, but you already see the behavior. Then big data works. You have already tied the clients to a company. AI and normal intelligence is working, and actually you can hear that you can need to open an account, you should issue the credits, there are payroll projects, etc. But the most important thing is to catch the requirement of the client, and then you should expand it, and then you're working with this base, and so this is what we are talking about. So speaking about the updating of the database, this is something that works everywhere. Insurance companies are using it quite actively, and there is a lot of demand, and the advantage of our products, we do it, we are very big, very cool, we are very classy, come to see us, but a little bit about the future. And the state wants to have ECID used in the commercial sector. So far the conversion rate is about 15%, 100% because we are not prepared to use to replace, for example, Sberbank ID with like the Sberbank is not prepared to do that. It will simply not unable to service the clients, and likewise the MTS with its group of companies. So we can match ECID, but so far Federal Security Service thinks that it's not feasible. They see some risks about it, even though the government of Moscow has done it. You can actually go to Moscow via Sberbank ID, so it is matched with ECID. But so there are many problems related to that. Still, everything will be there, and like Olga Skorobogatova has recently proposed, why we are torturing the banks, why do we burden them with the personal data, why collect personal data, it leaks out, it's being stolen, so why do we need to do that? If the state has them, we can just have ECID and citizens profile, citizens digital profile, and then it can work perfectly. And most likely, this is how it will end. So, as we are building our product line in the identity sector, anti-fraud, etc., we can understand that we are actually setting for us a goal target for a period of about 2 to 3 years. And so the period is 2 to 3 years, and once when it's resolved, there will be classy products with Rostelecom that it will allow to build in, or we will allow mutually to build in each other's products. So far, for 2 to 3 years, what we are doing, we are just helping you to earn the money. It's very easy maths, and it allows us to do things very easily. So biometry, from the point of view of the push of the face, is very good. So the fears will be gone. So we will learn to do it like in the Arabian countries. So you won't be able to do anything and then it will be like Face ID with Apple Pay. And of course the phone, it will be, will be able to use the phone to a lesser extent, or you will still be able to use it, but it will be not as important as the Face ID. But the problem with the phone number is that we cannot identify the person on the other end by the phone number. So if you pass it over to your son, it can be only voice recognition that will end a little bit of apocalyptic predictions. You can actually solve it if you have a chip implanted in your body. So then it will help one to solve that problem, but some people actually do have it implanted under the skin in your hand. So it's very apocalyptic, but yet it's very close and doable. So our vision is that in 2 to 3 years, these technologies will become very important, and then we will be in the same base, hopefully not a chip implanted on the body, but everything is moving that way. So from the point of view of the identification, this is a kind of there is some democracy, but probably it will be decreasing. So we are not against the CID. Give us normal conversion. We are not. We can build in your technologies, different technologies. So we are for it. But don't spoil our business, don't spoil this smooth client experience for which we are struggling. So, and we would be happy to assist you with that.